Boom! Sneak attack stream is on, just when you least expect it every single time. And what's even stranger is I saw Jazz blip on for a second in the
Yes.
green room, and then he just disappeared again. I'm like, all right, I'll have my a good head bop cue. That's probably him texting us, telling us his computer is still down and out. Hey everybody, what? I'm sorry, what was that? Him? Was that him?
No.
Was that right? No, that wasn't. That was somebody else who just decided to not put their phone on mute for the stream. Hey gang, welcome to another episode of the Guest Quest, the tabletop community role play TTRPG community interview show brought to you by the Gimme the Loot podcast, the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition actual play podcast that really can't remember how to do an intro unless it can compromise one of its own cast members. My name's Turner. Tonight we are joined by Bill from the I Rolled a One podcast, a podcast that's unique in the respect that it is very much a one-on-one a session, a style narrative that moves through different systems. We'll get in that in just a second. Bill, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, man. Good. Joining me tonight to talk to Bill are
Harland, and I play Todd on the Gimme the Loot podcast. Yeah, guys, I'm back. Been out for a bit, but I'm back.
I'm Jamie. I play Eldrin on the Gimme the Loot podcast, and I've been here. So
he sometimes role plays as a Vermont police officer.
There we go. I'm waiting for it.
I said NASCAR pit captain for the record.
And I am Anthony. I play Baba on the Gimme the Loot podcast.
So Bill is a longtime gamer, first-time podcaster. He runs the I Rolled a One podcast, which you can find on Podbean. It's a one-on-one tabletop RPG. He either is actually the player or the GM. He sits in both chairs. They play different game systems each story arc. He's a father of two. Has a stepson. He's been married for 6 years. He played semi-pro football. We'll get into that, trust me. He's traveled half the world back when he was in the Navy. He's an avid movie watcher, TV show watcher, and comic book geek, avid book fan too. He's played AD&D 2nd Edition, West End, Shadowrun, Pathfinder, the host of the Palladium games, and man, we will dip into that hot mess as well, because I also have played a bunch of those games. Recon, Fantasy Flight, Star Wars, the Star Trek RPG, Dune RPG, Fallout RPG, and Call of Cthulhu. Bill, thank you for joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
All right. So I gotta get the screens out of the way. All right, man. So real quick, let's jump in. So your podcast is a one-on-one show. It's you and either as the player or as the GM with one other person, right?
Yeah. It's just me and one of my friends. We'll get together and we'll just just throw a game together and just do it like 3-hour, 4-hour session and get it done. And we just play the game and have fun.
So how often are you the player and how often are you the GM?
Well, for right now, I've been the player majority of the time because a lot of my friends, I look at them and I go, okay, so I know you run a good game on this, so I want to run with you on this one and then go from there with that. The last one I ran was a Pathfinder game for my friend Sean, and we did it was called The Heist. So and I ran him through a game, and it was basically ended up being just a. I told him at the end, I'm like, look, I just ran you through an episode of The Blacklist. So
there you go. We are not afraid to crib from pop culture on our show either. In fact, I'm a big believer in taking those references and tropes and then either inverting them or modding them a little bit to get on our show. So, so what was the trigger to go, hey, I want to play games, but I also want to go ahead and do it as a show? Because there's a lot of work in producing a podcast and putting it together and organizing it. And believe me, there are days when I fantasize where I just had one other voice to edit when I'm doing mine. But so it feels like that might be a skosh easier. But what was the kind of impetus for that format? And then what was the impetus to kind of take it out in public?
Well, it started off, my friend Matt, he has his own podcast, and their guys are called the Guides to the Makerverse. They've been doing a lot of Palladium games. So he, a couple of years ago, I went to Gen Con with them, and we ended up playing, and that got put out on their podcast. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I started listening to a couple other podcasts, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then I brought it to my group and was like, hey guys, I think we'd make a great podcast. And then everybody was like, no, we just don't want to do it all together all at once. I'm like going, okay, fine. And then I started hearing some other podcasts that were doing like one-on-one kind of thing. I'm like going, I can do that. And a lot of my friends are like, hey, yeah, we'll definitely do it now. I'm like, okay, so it's just me and them, and yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's day in day out kind of stuff, and it's like you have to sit there and just edit, and I'm winging the editing and just trying to put it together to make it sound good. So
So talk a little bit about the one-on-one format. So and let's start from the DM angle, because that's really kind of what intrigued me when you reached out to us on Twitter about coming on the show. Is that I think, I mean, while there are some unique challenges, the bigger your party gets, strangely enough, there's also just as many unique challenges the smaller it gets as well, from a DM perspective. And Pathfinder can be extra crunchy too. What are some of the things that you have to take into consideration when you're just DMing for one person? Do you, as far as balancing encounters, are you bringing in extra NPCs? What are you doing when it's just kind of a mano a mano situation?
a lot of it, basically, it's just that. It's just bringing in, a couple extra NPCs. Just making sure that, if you have a great idea, like, oh, I want them to fight this big bad and this, that, and everything else, and then it turns out they end up getting killed at the end of it. It's like, no, that's not right. It's all about having fun, and it's just trying to throw something together, and it's the challenge for me is just trying to come up with a story, and
Mhm.
it's like, okay, when I say, hey, what session, what gaming system you guys want to run, and they give me ideas, and I go from there, and I'm like going, okay, and then I have to like s- figure out what I want to do. So a lot of it is just, you know, what you want to do, and what kind of story you want to tell. So I just tell that story, and if it's I don't mind the rules much, so I'm not a rule lawyer, and I don't ca I don't it's just about having fun, really.
Yeah,
Just
it definitely helps if you're a little bit flexible with it. So I know exactly how big the group Harlan's played in is, because he's only ever played in one group. Anthony, what's the smallest and biggest group you've ever played in?
Um, I think 2 players
Yeah.
is the smallest I've played. Um, I may have done some solo stuff, like kind of not necessarily using the rules in the books when I was younger with my brother DMing, just kind of where sitting there and just felt like doing something, done some stuff like that. Single player campaigns, but nothing that was like really actually thought out or
Mhm.
done, just kind of freestyling on both sides.
So, Bill, with your podcast, what systems have you done? And do you try? Is there like a meta narrative that goes from arc to arc, or are they? Is it more anthology based? With I mean, because I can imagine like trying to have a through line on the story across multiple systems could be really tough. Doable, certainly, but would be really tough. Or do you guys kind of do it just as kind of individual, just one off kind of short stories?
it's a lot of one-off short stories. I mean, the first one that we did was, Palladium Heroes, which that's the one that I got back into when I started gaming all over again. I got into Heroes, and I just loved it. I had some access to it before, and once I got back into it, it was just like, oh, that's great. That's awesome. I love it. And then we did Cyberpunk with my friend Rusty, who was a huge Cyberpunk fan. We went through that system. We've done, um, Palladium or Pathfinder. I'm sorry. And then the last one that I did, it was, the One Ring RPG.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one. And then the other one, the one that I'm getting ready to do is, it's called Hunter the Vigil, which is, all part of that Dark World
World of
series, which is
Darkness. Yeah.
World of Darkness, yeah, vampire and all that. And I just started creating my character for that for recording with my friend, this weekend on it, and it's like,
Sorry. And that's
yeah,
the thing with Hunter is you're actually playing kind of the bad guy for World of Dark. Not that there's like good guys in World, like that's where you're playing like a monster hunter in the world of monsters, right? Isn't that the core conceit behind Hunter?
yeah, that's what I've been reading. I mean, that's I just got the book and just started reading it up, and it's like, okay, this is where we're at here. I'm like, okay, so I kind of look at it like, it's a little bit to me. It's like being being a hunter in like Supernatural kind of a thing. Following that kind of story and just going from there, and and just kind of going from that. That's what I'm basing my character off as kind of like a hunter from that kind of thing, but not not Sam Dean or Bobby Singer or anybody like that. So I just kind of like threw a name together and said, okay, this is my guy, and I'm gonna go with it.
So he's gonna die shortly after you get introduced to him.
only to have his
much.
brother bring him back to life 37 times throughout the picture.
If you're a random hunter on that show, good luck.
Yeah, you're not gonna make it.
Good luck.
It's like being a red shirt in Star Trek. So
I'm glad I just finished season 2, so I had to caught that reference.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, and season 4 and 6 and 8 and 10. What? There actually is a supernatural RPG. I managed to track down a PDF of it. I tried to find the original hard copy. It's almost impossible to find. It was published by Tracy Weiss's publishing company, which did a bunch of licensed stuff. And at one point, I even reached out to the author on Twitter and was like, "Hey, man, do you know anywhere where I could find this book?" He's like, "No, bro, I didn't save any copies. If you manage to find one, send it to me. I'm happy to sign it for you." But I was able to track down a PDF of it at this point. I'm like, I'm not saying that at some point we'll do a supernatural based one shot with the guys, but at some point we'll do a supernatural based one shot with the guys. So, but I feel like I really need to find a hard copy of the book before I do it. And it's kind of a weird system too. So, Jazz, since you just finally joined us, thank you for finally making it. It's nice of you. To
hey, at least I fixed my PC problems. There's somebody who
that is just a cruel shot at Moyle. Wow, that is kicking a man while he's down.
Hey,
wow,
that's the best time to kick him. He really can't do much when he's down.
You don't have to stretch. Yeah, you don't even really have to lift your leg.
Yeah.
What's the smallest group you've ever played in?
He has advantage to kick him while he's down too.
I think the smallest group I've played in is
very close to a spit take, Anthony. Very close to with the power gamer response to kicking somebody while they're down.
I DM'd for my kids, so I had a group of 3. It's probably the smallest.
Yeah, I actually ran in probably about a 7 or 8 month solo campaign for one of my friends in high school. We had other gaming groups. He was like, "Man, I just want to play a basic fighter." And I'm like, "Okay, dude, we will do a one-on-one campaign where you're just playing a basic fighter." And yeah, it was really kind of NPC heavy. He had one kind of sidekicky character, and then kind of guest characters would kind of rotate in, very similar to like 80s and 90s TV shows where you had like that main character kind of roaming. It's very, very kung fu-esque, except with less Orientalism in it. So, but that was his kind of whole deal. He just wandered around and stumbled.
Bruce Banner-ish.
Yeah, very Bruce Banner-ish. Yeah, there you go. More TV's the Hulk than anything else, except less hulking. And he had a spear. That was like his whole thing. I got a spear.
Not a walking stick, just a
no.
spear.
It was a spirit. It was a character he actually started that got like, we ran a module the first time I ever played with him. He's like, "Yeah, remember that fighter I played in that module that died like 5 minutes into it? I want to play that dude." I'm like, "Okay, sure." So he was this failed local hero. It was a whole thing. But it does make you approach encounters and combat and storytelling much more differently from a mechanics perspective, because so much of the game is geared, I think, 3 to 4 people mechanically feels like the sweet spot for 5e. Guys, you got thoughts on that at all? Or
I think so. I mean, that's right now my group that I game with, once a month we're about 6, 7, 8 people big, so it's, we have a huge table going on right now. So it's, we have that. But the sweet spot, when I was doing it, when I was playing with my friends, was just 3 of us, and we all of us had 2 characters each, and we just went from there with it. So
having a large group is really cool, because I think people feel a little bit less pigeonholed into playing a specific role for party balance. But man, when you hit combat, it is like a brick wall. You know what I mean? It's like when you have to roll initiative for 7 people and then the monsters. It's like, dude, we're going to be here a minute. And we've got an encounter coming up on our podcast where we had a guest on plus the party, and because of the nature of the combat, instead of doing a group initiative for the monsters, I rolled individual initiative, and it's like it feels like I've got 32 turns per combat, and then I
That's
think
because you're multi-attacking 1,000 times. That's what it feels like.
and I skip characters. Like I can't keep initiative together for shit, and I will skip a guy.
That's the early onset dementia.
Yeah, and it absolutely is. You're gonna feel real fucking bad about that when you're wiping my ass 6 months from now. No, it is. Part of it is I just don't keep good notes while we're rolling.
Bill said something that he plays a game where there's two of you. You guys have two characters each in the game.
Well, that was when we first started. When I was doing AD&D back in the day with my friends in high school.
That's a thing you can do.
Oh yeah,
that's what we did. I mean, we played
tag team champions.
We had we had my one friend who was playing. He was playing the paladin. He was playing the cleric, and then another friend of mine. He was playing a fighter wizard and the wizard, and I was playing the rogue and the ranger. So I had we had just those roles set out for each of us, and we just played those roles accordingly. So
yeah.
Harlan can barely play one class, so he's really.
I know. Don't give him any ideas. Like
First of all, I play my character class the way it's supposed to be played. So,
Harlan, you're not playing your character or your class. That's just you.
it works. Is that not how the character is supposed to be played?
Unfortunately, it does. Unfortunately,
it does work.
The success of it is unfortunate. So, semi-pro football for a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that so? Like, walk us through how that worked out.
Well, there was a point in time in my life where I was just kind of hitting a low spot, and I needed to do something. So I ended up just hitting the weights and just going to town on it. And I actually wanted to try pro. So I went around and I called a ton of pro teams that were in my area. I called Cleveland, I called Cincinnati, I called Detroit, Indianapolis, and I even called Pittsburgh. You can see my hat. Yeah, I called Pittsburgh, and I'm like,
but you didn't call New York though, right? Like that's definitely a team that you left off that list.
Yeah, New York. No, I didn't call. I think I did call New York. I probably called the Jets and the Giants.
Well, not knocking the rosters of the teams that he called, but those were all pretty easy to walk onto. I think we're talking Browns, Bengals, Lions. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And then at that one point, I called Carolina Panthers, and I got in touch with one guy, and he's like, "Look, you're probably bulked up some, and you're gotten a little faster." And I said, "Yeah, definitely. I've gotten better and I've gotten faster." And he's like, "What you need to do is try semi-pro." And he's like, "Go into that and do that for a couple years, and then come out and try for us," which is what I did. And then I got there, and I'm playing guys who were like. Played Division I football in college, and a couple guys that played in the NFL. And I'm like and I'm here, and I just started playing. I'm going, I'm not gonna make it in the NFL. I'm gonna make it here. So
is that like arena league ball, or what is? I mean, I guess because I've heard of arena league football. I've never heard of like semi-pro football. So.
Semi-pro, what semi-pro is basically you're paying to play. This is like this is the guys who are like coming out of high school and don't want to go to college yet, or who are just getting out of college and want to hone their skills a little bit more. Semi-pro is the place to go because if you want to play in college, you can't get paid, and that's what semi-pro is. It's you pay to play. You pay a fee. You buy your pads, you buy your helmet, your shoulder pads, you buy your jerseys, and you go from there with it. And it's I played that. I did that for like 5 years. I played for 3 different teams here in Ohio. Let's see, it was defensive end, defensive line is where I played, and then for my second team, we ended up playing Ironman ball. So I played wide receiver, tight end, left tackle. Defensive line. One game we barely had enough people. I ended up playing free safety. I'm not a fast guy at all whatsoever. My dad always joked with me. He's like, "Yeah, you look like you run with a refrigerator on your back." I'm like going, "Yeah, that's pretty much it." And I'm back there going, "Yep, nope, Nope.
Ironic.
Way too deep.
That is the Rocky training montage. I think that's how you get fit for us. You should have been a boxer. You are clearly in the wrong sport. Well, cool, but let's slip into. Has anybody besides Bill and me played the Palladium games, like Rifts or any of that before I go down this particular rabbit hole?
I have not.
Nope.
Anthony,
Which one? Which all is
Palladium,
Palladium?
like a supernatural. They have a supernatural RPG. They have a fantasy RPG. Rifts is really kind of they had a Robotech and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles RPG. They actually had those licenses for a little bit, believe it or not.
Nope, I don't think I have.
Was it what was that gesture you were making on
Sorry, my head almost got blown off by the fact that there's a TMNT RPG that I didn't know about.
Yeah, so it was weird, man. Like Palladium's been around forever, and they nabbed the Robotech and TMNT license really, I think even before the cartoon popped. So it is like the Eastman and Laird Turtles. Wow. And then they did a spinoff called After the Bomb, which is post-apocalyptic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And
I played Heroes Unlimited.
Heroes Unlimited, yeah.
Okay.
That's their superhero version. It's an interesting system. It is power creep is the name of the game. I think with Palladium's, definitely with Rifts. It's I think a little bit less evident in some of the superhero systems. And the Heroes Unlimited is not bad for a superhero system.
Yeah, it was fun.
What was interesting always you had percentage based skill tree basically, and you had just a Mac trucks load worth of skills that your guy like that. Making a character for a Palladium game it is an adventure in and of itself for the time that it takes and the different percentages that you have to fill out. But what Rifts ended up getting known for more than anything else is just basically they took everything and raised the power level exponentially from book to book to book to book. And then there was, quite a significant amount of cultural appropriation as you kind of got. The Three Black Halflings have an episode specifically about Rifts Africa, if that gives you an idea. Episode. And it's not wrong. It is not wrong. But it also has a shit ton of giant robots, including one that when you open it up, it has like just a tank turret for a head. And that was like, well, that's all 16-year-old me needed to see to decide this was the role-playing game I needed to play. Like that guy just has a giant tank head. Fuck it, I'm in. Folks. So they, it was a weirdly inconsistent publishing schedule. The company, I think, had some issues back and forth. So they released a video game on the N-Gage, if anybody remembers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
they had
the Nokia, honestly, the Nokia N-Gage, right?
The Nokia N-Gage, which was too bad to be ahead of its time. So
you guys are old.
Yeah, we are, dude.
You hang out with that old. It was like early 2000s, right? Like,
yeah, Nokia. The N-Gage isn't that old, but I am fucking old. That's my whole bit. What is your problem? But you also did a stint in the. How long were you in the Navy?
I was in the Navy for about 2.5 years.
Cool. I did.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was stationed in San Diego for a good portion of that time after getting out of boot camp, and we went to. I got to go. 6 months out of the year, I ended up being halfway across the world and back. So I got to go to places like Okinawa for a little bit. Hong Kong before it got sent back over to the Chinese. Singapore, Aqaba, Jordan. The thing about Aqaba, Jordan is it's where the City in Stone is, Petra. So I got to see that place. So yeah, if and I always tell everybody, it's like, you don't know what that is. Go ahead and watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and you see the part where they're riding up on the horseback to go where his father's is supposed to be at. That is the City in Stone. That is Petra. And unfortunately, there's no traps there, and it's just a hollowed out building. It's just a hollowed out blocking stone, and it's like
amazing look.
They don't let you ride the horses all the way up either. They let you ride the horses all the way to the beginning of the cavern, and then you have to hoof it all the way in. And cowboy boots, I will say, is not the best thing to wear while walking over rocky terrain because that
that was
the worst thing. And then after there, we went to the Middle East for a bit. So I got to see Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Jebel Ali, Kuwait City, and then on the way home we hit Bunbury, Australia. So, and I got to do that stint. I've seen Hawaii like twice. I've been through the Panama Canal once, and I got to go to Mobile, Alabama for Mardi Gras. Now that was a lot of fun. So, and any city that's along the Gulf Coast, they have their own version of Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
And I had a blast. I really had a blast. So.
You guys all did a stint on the Gulf Coast, right? Yeah, like the cast. Where were you guys all at together at one point?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Jazz, were you with them in Baton Rouge? No,
I was not.
Not cool enough.
No.
No. Not old enough. I was still in high school.
Not cool enough.
Yeah.
That cool enough.
You were in college by then. Stop.
I was say Anthony was fresh out when he was there. We just
I might be exaggerating a little, but not much.
Club, so.
Well, guys, have you? We're coming at about 30 minutes in. Have you guys got any questions for Bill as far as running a one-on-one multi-system podcast panel, or minor league ball, or being in the Navy? Anything across this?
So me personally, I've never DM'd. The thought of it makes me I just want to kill the person going to it. If it's a one-on-one, how could it not be competitive? How could it not be you actively trying to kill this person, or this person actively trying to survive your devilish traps? That's all it would be. It would be, how can Harlan try to kill Jamie in today's episode? How does it not become that?
Wow.
It's
wow.
You can do something like that. However, it's more of for me, it's just trying to tell a good story.
It's a good story.
Yeah, it's a good story. Yeah, definitely. But it's never about trying to kill the other person. It's about let's get the story out and let's tell a good story. With the Pathfinder one that I ran for my friend Sean, he ended up doing a heist and he was playing a halfling. So what we did was, I had him just, okay, well, case this place out, look what you're looking for, and then we'll go from there. And I gave him like 2 additional characters to work with. I gave him another halfling wizard, and then I gave him he was like, I want an alchemist. I'm like, okay. I'm like, what race do you want for the alchemist? He goes, a goblin. I'm like, okay, well, here we go. We got a goblin alchemist who loves to blow shit up. So it's a lot about just telling a story and not trying to kill anybody, but you just, if it gets to the point where it's going to be overwhelming for them, then you kind of have to learn how to just back it off. I mean, because it's like, I learned that the hard way, because I ran another story years ago for a small group of people, and there was kids involved, and I had this story. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I'm just gonna find this one person. I'm gonna roll the die and I'm gonna kill him with this like high level, monk fighter, wizard style character who just had all this power, and and it's just to show these people, there was to capture these people. Well, I ended up rolling the dice and getting one of the kids, and I rolled all the damage, and I went, all right, so that's like 100 and something. Are you still alive? And they went, no. And I went, oh God. I'm like, I didn't really mean to do that. I'm so sorry. And it's just, you just really have to just make sure it's just to have fun. That's the main thing of it. I mean, it's all about having fun. So
I'm gonna have fun. Jamie's dead 10 minutes into it, and the other 2.5 hours is me telling the story about how my guy ravaged the whole countryside and killed everyone else. That's all you're gonna hear is 5 minutes of Jamie go, I guess I rolled bad.
No. What you would really see is Harlan stand up for, like, imagine a crowded room in a convention. Harlan is DMing for a group. You see them all kind of sit back from the table, and Harlan just stand up as the DM, raise his arms up in the air and yell, I won Dungeons and Dragons. I won Dungeons and Dragons. And then, Bushwhacker walk out of the hall. Like, that's not the way the game is set up or work, but that's the way he'd play it. And God help us, at some point, he will run a one-shot on our show. And that's, we just have to prepare.
You know what's coming.
I won Dungeons and Dragons, and then like spike a DM screen and strut out of the hall. Like, bro.
Yes.
Y'all will walk into a dark room with nothing but rakes on the floor. So as you step on it,
Fucking Gygax! Like that's
no.
You're gonna
Not
Looney
the
Tune
sideshow
rake us
Bob
to
trap.
death.
Just
The
rakes
sideshow
everywhere.
Bob trap.
Classic.
oh yeah.
Oh, listen. 4-year-olds get it too. If you don't teach a 4-year-old how to properly lose, they grow up to be spoiled. So you have to smash them in the face early on, proverbially. Not
No, I hold on. It very
So
much
the
feels
proverbial
like
face smash.
there is a your kids have gotten accustomed to the fact that you are lurking around the corner and any moment can pop out and go vibe check and just smack them. Not hard, but just enough to scare them. Like vibe check.
You
Like,
should
con-
hear my son play Smash Brothers. I can't
Oh,
play with
fuck.
him anymore because he's gotten better than me, and his trash talk is at a level that I'm just like, all right, that's my
Yeah.
boy.
I
did
wonder
that.
where that
He's so
comes
proud.
from.
He's like, that's my boy.
I learned that the hard way too. When my stepson was younger, he was into the the Mortal Kombat games. He was into some of the other ones, and I'm like, all right, cool. And I'm like, I'm able to beat him a few times, and next thing you know, he starts just whooping on my ass, and I'm like, and he starts talking shit too, and I'm like, okay, we're done here. Nope. And he's like, hey, you want to? And his thing was he liked the wrestling game, so he would just tear me up in the wrestling game, and I'm like going, he's like, well, I'll let you live, and he just whooped me up one side down, upside, and the other, and he's like, well, I'm like, nope. He's like, you want to play? I'm like, nope. I'm not doing this anymore.
The amount of trash talking is great, but that happens. But yeah, no, that is how if I get this one shot, oh beware, guys. Oh beware.
See, I thought
I don't
I
think
was
you
gonna
read
be
the rules enough to know how to kill us. That's what I think happened.
You turn to the last page, you look for monsters, you turn to the last page.
The
and
last
that's
page. Oh my
that's
god.
how that works.
There's
Right?
so much to unpack in that. Like, yeah, I just got the monsters manual and I turned to Z. Like all the
Notes for-
monsters that start with Z are all the hardest ones, right? That's how it works. Like the fucking alphabet.
The
Like,
back of the book is always where the tough guys are. They
That's why
start with
fucking
one,
Christ.
and they work their
Back
way
of the
up.
book. Holy Jesus. Oh, you broke me. You won this fucking stream, sir. I will give you that. You broke me with the back of the book. That did it. Oh my god. I'm in pain. Somebody asked Bill a question. Oh.
All right, so I was gonna ask Bill. I got in here late, so I just want to make sure I hadn't missed because I'm hearing you played semi-pro football, you served in the military. Do you have any other ways that you can prove that you're a better man than everybody else on this stream at the moment?
Do you
Other
make
than what just
knives?
came
I'm
out of
rocking this
Harlan's
really
mouth.
nice goatee.
for the
How's that?
last
I mean, that's I don't know.
Do you make knives? Because that then you win.
Are you a blacksmith, sir? Do you
No,
what
no. Unfortunately,
what are
I'm
your
not. So.
what are your armor making bona fides? Have you ever constructed a crossbow? That's all Harlan's got to go on at this point. But anybody else got a question before we throw it to the chat?
So I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but so when you're in these one-on-one campaigns, is the character solo or is it the character in a group of NPCs that is going? Are they solo stories or no?
The majority of them have been solo stories.
Okay.
It's been one-on-one with the characters. With the heist one, I brought in some characters, because I knew my friend, I was like, look, you're going to need some help on this one because it's how I have it set up.
Mhm.
And then with the One Ring one with my friend Jeff, he brought in an extra character for me, which helped out. So it's a lot of having that. But for the majority of the time, it's just one-on-one. It's just me, and it's like I have my one friend who listens to my podcast religiously go, I can't believe you did that. Why didn't you pay it? Why didn't you do it this way? I'm like going, well, it's just me. I don't have anybody else to bounce these ideas off. I have to just myself and go, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do, and we're just going to go this way. And that's how it goes. I mean, it's you're focused, and it's real intimate. It really is. It's very
Yeah.
intimate. It's a very
That's cool.
it's I enjoy it. I really do.
You know, I gotta say, the idea of like having somebody else around to like bounce ideas off of sounds like a great idea until like you see that type of situation in practice, and then sometimes you end up with worse ideas because you bounced it off of people around you who may
Oh
or may
yeah,
not
I
be to
know.
be trusted.
See, my Sunday games that I play with my friends, we're right now we're playing the Fallout RPG. And I play a character who I call Doc, who's basically like Doc Brown, but he's a medic. And I say he has a PhD in chaos. And I just kind of like walk over to somebody and I'm like going, here, I'll pay you $20 to go, I'll pay you 20 caps to go do this. And the guy's like, the little kid plays a Superman, and he's like, all right, cool, I'll go do it. And he just goes running off. I'm like going, okay, we're just gonna sit back.
Dreakin, what happens if you're just playing one-on-one with your bro and his character starts flirting with your NPC? That's never. Doesn't matter how many people in the group. That's always awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. It actually did happen. My friend Sean, he's playing a female character, and he had a history with the other halfling character, and he was like talking, and it's like, well, you kind of have to go, well, how close do you want to do this, and how much do you want to like touch and go with it? And it's like, oh, we'll just go with these like history and bad history, and we'll go from there with it. So,
Hey, I've had plenty of groups who pimped out our ASMRs, man. They're just pretty looking people. Hey man, go get us that free in.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't have any bards in the party. We have a Moyle, but we don't have any bards. So, there's been there other than the Andrew Tortle hookup, which we did record a particularly steamy Moyle Tortle sex scene for, that just the audio didn't ever make it out. Like that, like there was a lot of grunting that peaked and caused a lot of distortion. And it just didn't end up coming out okay, so we ended up having to cut it. But that and it just would have been horrific.
Why am I only like? And it's bad that I imagine this, but it was just that I'm hearing them listen to I just want to take it nice and slow. Like,
Oh my God. Oh man. That so but yeah, I will say, while it's not easier one way or the other, because I mean, yeah, sure, having a group of people, you have to. There's a little bit of a different level of complexity when crafting encounters, but also from the podcast side of things, I can sit back for a minute and go, okay, you guys be dumbasses for a couple of minutes and to kind of fill in some space here in an episode. With a one-on-one show, is you and it's your player, and it does put a really weighty burden on both the player and the GM in that circumstance to kind of fill in that space.
oh yeah. I mean, you have to. A lot of it, it's like, what dialogue do you need? Another game that I played that I did on the podcast I totally forgot about was it's called Fellowship of the White Star. And that one is a historical version of events that happens like 100 years in the past, and that they take like real life events and they put a supernatural twist on it. And that was one that I played, was where I sat there and it was just like, okay, so I asked a ton of questions and I just kept asking straight questions about this and just and they had a dice pool, that they were using a dice pool for like D8s for a dice pool, and I was like, I was having fun with it, but I was just constantly just, all right, well, what about this? And I'm just questioning, and you have to understand, it's like I was just trying to get an idea, and then once I figured out what was going on, it's like, okay, well, let's just try this and work this way with it, and and go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was finishing the thought.
Oh, okay. Now, I was gonna say, do you have a preference on D20 versus dice pool systems, like either both inside the podcast and outside the podcast? Because obviously, I've made my feelings very clear about where I stand on dice pool games. But again, I think there's dynamics to them that work and don't work with. And if with you playing multiple systems on the podcast, what do you kind of feel most comfortable in, a dice pool game or a straight D20 system?
Both really. I mean, it's being able to play both. I mean, Shadowrun. I love Shadowrun.
Mm.
You know, we all know that's just a huge dice pool of d6s that you just roll across the table and hope, you know, they all are success, but you know, don't hit nobody. But yeah, no, I mean, I do those. You know, do that one. D20s are great. The Fantasy Flight Star Wars, that was a completely different system that I was not used to, and it's like it ended up being one of my favorite systems to play for you know a Jedi. I ended up you know I was forced into playing a Jedi. I didn't want to play one, but I was like, well, he's like, I need a Jedi. Do you want to play it? I'm like, yeah, okay. Is he a bounty hunter too? Yeah, okay. Boom.
So which Star Wars was that the older one or is that one of the newer Star Wars
Fantasy
RPGs?
Flight is the newer one. West End Games is like the
Okay.
older one.
Yeah, that's
And
the one that I'm thinking of. So with what's different about Fantasy Flight that drew you in so much to it that made you like it so much with the system?
it's more of a storytelling kind of a
Mhm.
thing. So it's a lot about storytelling and getting the stories across rather than you know you're telling more of the story and it's you know the dice rolls are to you know okay you get successes if it's a success you know or it's triumph or anything like that you get bonuses on that you get you but you're still telling the story um you know I we played you know we played a Clone Wars session and um so you know when I played a Jedi I played the father of my main character and you know and it's like the story was, you know, I got to face off against the Shaw's Ventress, and you know, she's running away, and she had this nav system, and it's like, you know, I was like, okay, well, you know, and I'm hanging on to the back of this, you know, speeder bike, and I'm just like holding on for dear life, and I'm like going, well, I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm like, is the nav system right in front of me? He's like, yeah. I said, then I go, well, I grab it and let go. I mean, I that was the whole point of what I needed to do, and you know, this just happened to be on Coruscant too, so I'm like falling to my death. So it was a lot of roles and there was a lot of storytelling on that part to where, you know, the rest of the team, they were like, you know, okay, well, we chain each other together and we hang outside and we grab him and, you know, and the flying. And it was fun story sessions telling. I mean, it just ended up being a lot of fun. So,
Well, cool, man. That's interesting. I haven't checked that version of it out. I played the old one, but I've heard good things about the new one, and I know that Roll20 is doing kind of Star Wars, but using fifth edition kind of rules. So I'm interested in checking Star Wars and 5e out as well. So,
So
panel,
they're
any other
remaking
questions
Knights
for
of the Old
Bill?
Republic.
Sorry, what?
So they're remaking Knights of the Old Republic.
Pretty much, yeah, yeah. I mean, Kodor had a lot of D&D systems. Was it built off of 3.5 explicitly?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, it was KOTOR was a great game, man. Was a
yeah.
was a great game. So guys, any other questions before Bill before we check in with chat?
Do you always play with like familiar players, or are there ever times where you're bringing in someone that you've never played with before for a 1v1? And if so, does that make it substantially harder to have a successful session?
Right now it's been a lot of the majority of everybody I played with is somebody I'm familiar with. The Fellowship of the White Star game with my friend Victor. You know, I know of him, but he was, you know, I hadn't really talked to him that much other than you know our session. So it ended up being a little bit strange, and but it was like you know it ended up still working out in the end. It's like the story still got across, so everybody, you know, we all had fun with it. So
Well, cool. Guys, what else?
I was going to ask what has been on, I guess, on the podcast the most like interesting situation as far as like it's given that it's the 1v1 or not, I won't say 1v1, but the one-on-one situation. Like, has there been a point where like you find yourself and you're like, man, I really wish I had help to like get me through this?
that's I think a lot of it was yeah yeah everybody I had a lot of NPCs with a couple of them. The one that I was hoping to get a lot of help was my first one, which was in the Palladium game system, but it was just me and Matt, and he was just running it, and he was like, "Well, I'm just gonna play all the NPCs of this, but you're on your own." And I think in that one I ended up facing off against a street gang with my character, and my character is this. Uh, I like calling him. He's like a Luke Cage / Marv style character. He's just a I'm gonna beat you down kind of a tank style character, so he could take the beatings. But he went out. He faced off against this king, and I snuck in, got a few good hits off, but they still outnumbered me, and I'm like going, okay, what do I need to do here? I'm like, instead of like punching my way out of this situation, I'm gonna end up just, well, I'm gonna talk. I'm not a good talker, but I'm gonna talk.
Wait,
And I'm like, look, man, get me out of here. I don't want to hurt nobody. So
you came in there fist swinging. You
no, I came
realized
in
that
sneaking. I came in
Okay.
sneaking, and I realized, after a while, I ended up taking somebody as a hostage. I'm like going, okay, I'm using him as a bullet shield, hoping that they don't shoot him. And what ended up happening was the leader of the game was like, he's with the people that are trying to kill us all, and guy takes off running. I'm like going, oh crap, here we go. So I'm tossing bodies left and right, trying to get after the leader to get my point across. I'm like, look, I just want to talk to somebody, so and get the story, get what's going on with it.
Harlan, sneaking is something rogues do in other games, not yours, but sneaking is something that other rogues do.
Why would you sneak when you've got these knives?
There it is.
Why would they
The knives are shiny and
I don't understand stealth from an existential perspective. My name's Todd. How are you?
Doesn't Todd have like a +10 to stealth too?
That's dumb.
Todd's super
insane.
sneaky.
It's not even. He took expertise in stealth, just not to use it, so everybody knows he could. Like, oh, I could walk up in there stealthy, but we're kicking down some doors.
Exactly.
Todd is not afraid to kick a door. So, all right, gang. What else?
That's all I had.
Cool. All right, chat. What do you guys got for us besides Dreeken asking a really pointed question about The Last Jedi, which we won't entertain. The Last Jedi was not a bad Star Wars movie. I'm tired of people throwing it under the bus. The Last Rise of Skywalker was garbage. We asked that questions. What's the worst Star Wars movie besides The Last Jedi? Wrong. A Waffle asks, hey, how's everybody doing? We're all doing good, A Waffle. I think I'm finally over that cold. And I think that's pretty much it. Chat, last call for questions, gang, before we wrap her up. Boop, 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 boop. There's a delay that I never can deal with. I need to throw the question to maybe one of the 5 other people on the stream could throw that out into the chat a little bit.
I thought somebody did.
No, I know. I'm just giving you guys a hard time because you actually did. I'm just giving you a hard time because you actually did this time, and nobody came up with any questions. Well, cool, gang. I think we're going to wrap it up at this point. We actually have to record our first episode of Baba's Arc after this one, so we've got a little bit extra heavy lifting to do before we kind of get into it. And then next week, man, the start of our second arc has been a little bit discombobulated, but because we've got 2 episodes in the tank for it already, but we're now having to go back in time to actually record the start of it for reasons that will become clear sooner rather than later. And then next week we have our Join the Party episode, where our Bava level supporters join the cast playing other characters for a one-shot that will impact the world for the party of 5. So it'll actually be it'll be April before we get that 3rd or 4th session in of Baba's Arc, but we still have plenty of episodes to come out. And in fact, coming up in the stream next will actually be Jazz's episodes, where Jazz steps in and DMs a prequel a little bit. We will eventually be releasing the audio from the first Join the Party with our very own Bill Cyber 7, who is actually DMing a Shadowrun game right now, or working on his campaign as we speak, and Matt Dave, who did such a great job. But I want to release those as a single episode, and it's a beefy ass edit, and I just don't know that I'm going to have time to get that wrapped up by release time next week. So Jazz's short shots were kind of done in some easier to chew chunks. So Jazz's debut as a DM for the party will be coming out next Tuesday. So you get that first little taste of that lore building. Bill, they can find you at irolled1.podbean.com. Where can they find your podcast?
I can be found on Podbean. I can be found on Spotify. Wherever you listen to podcasts at, I can really be found. I'm not on Apple.
Oh, okay.
I'm not on
Okay.
Apple iPod yet, but I'm still working to get there. So
And then on Twitter, you're at Hindu3 on Twitter.
it's I do have I rolled a one for the Twitter as well, but Hendo, that's just me. That's my last name. So
There he is.
there it is, right there.
Okay, cool. Okay, we will get links to all that up. By all means, please take the time to check out Bill's show and show him
Yes.
support for coming on and talk about being a good sport to come on and talk about us. A very unique DMing style and dude, not only I think is it a unique format for a podcast. I think it's cool that you rotate between the two. You know what I mean? That you both have other people come on and DM for you, where you sit in the player's chair and do the one-on-one scenario, and then as well as vice versa. So I think that's a really cool opportunity to kind of do some different stuff with the format, and we absolutely appreciate you making time for us to jump on for the show. So thanks for joining us, gang. Thanks for coming in, everybody. Streamcast, thanks for joining us. And I almost forgot. So close.
Ooh.
So close. But then I looked down and Jamie's mustache reminded me. Jamie's mustache reminded me we've got to ask the going away question. So let's see. One-on-one oriented question. Okay, here we go. And this is also a March Madness question. What current or past pro athlete, also ties into Bill's semi-pro, do you think you could take on in a one-on-one scenario, either in their sport or another circumstance? What pro athlete or pro anything, we'll say pro anything, do you think you could take in a one-on-one scenario? And it doesn't have to be like them at their peak. It can be like old Michael Jordan. Like right now, do you think you could take Michael Jordan one-on-one in basketball? Like old, questionable mustache Michael Jordan. Baba, you get to go first because we always do these backwards. I'm sorry, man. It's Jamie's fault. So, and Bill, luckily you don't have to answer these as the guest. This is really just one last thing you get to watch them squirm at. But who do you think you could take one-on-one?
Michael Gallup. He's got a blown ACL, right? Trying to find somebody who's currently injured. I can probably take him.
Shots fired. All right.
I love you, Michael Gallup. Just saying.
Jazz, who do
I
you
had to
think
kick you while you was down.
Because you had advantage.
They got advantage. Now's the best time to do it. We established that. Well, you have advantage from melee, ranged attacks, disadvantage. Boom, rules. Fate, who do you think you could take one-on-one?
I think I could beat Cole Beasley at taking shots. double entendre.
I see what you did there.
There we go.
Jamie, who do you think you
I'm going to say I could take Michael Jordan in a mustache growing contest.
No, there it is. There it is.
He grew. Wait. But he had the confidence to grow a Hitler stash. He had the confidence to grow what?
All it takes is just to cut it here, man.
Oh, no.
And then there.
Are you at that level that you think that someone could take a picture of you with that stash right now and you could live the rest of your life like that?
I have pictures of myself. I've shaved it in that shape, and it looks terrible. It's the Charlie Chaplin. It's not Hitler.
Sure.
No, it's the Hitler, bro. There's no.
I would never walk out in public with it.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on from that as quickly as we possibly fucking can. Also, tell your wife I'm gonna need her to get me those pictures for some promotional images. Harland, who do you think you could take one-on-one?
I had to think about this. I think Muggsy Bogues is almost 60 years old right now, and he's 5'3". I am definitely taking him in a game of basketball. He's 5'3" and 60. No way I'm letting a 60-year-old man beat me in basketball. Not happening.
He's crossing you over and taking your ankles away. You don't have a lot of calf muscle there to support him anyway.
That's true. Oh, that is true.
He gonna have you like Michael Gallup out here. I don't know why I'm going in on Michael Gallup. I'm sorry. I like Michael Gallup.
Done. We are going to get some tweets. All right, gang. Thank you again, Bill, for joining us and making time. Everybody, thanks for hopping on, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Make the stream end now.